Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion, and in this video I'll be previewing the big clash between the Chennai Super Kings and the Royal Challengers Bangalore in the first game out of two in tomorrow. And before I go on, I think I mentioned in the last video that I'd also be making a video on the four other teams that I missed out on, saying how they fared so far, and that video is definitely coming. But I just felt like the Chennai versus Bangalore game is kind of a derby in a sense, and it's a derby because there's other context around it, and also Kohli versus Dhoni, and also they are it's one versus two in the table. So these kind of clashes. It's a case where both teams have been looking to win the game, because for the first place team, it's kind of like if they beat the second place team, it's psychologically you're the best team in the tournament if you beat the second place team. And for CSK, who are the second place team, they'll kind of be thinking, if we beat the first place team, they'll know that we are a serious. I mean, they already look. Said the second place team is a very serious team, but I'm saying that the first place team, if they lose to second place, it would constantly be bugging them to say we're first, but at the same time, we're not exactly first because we lost to the team that's behind us. So it'll be a psychological battle for both teams, and the team that wins this will certainly benefit, for the longer run in this tournament. And getting to the game, so I'm going to start off with RCB. Now, RCB have been on an excellent run this season where they've played 4 games and won 104. And, you look at the players, the standout performers, AB de Villiers, Glenn Maxwell, Virat Kohli also scored a 72 in the latest game they played, Padikkal with 100. And the latest game was actually a 10-wicket win where they completely destroyed Rajasthan Royals. And, Rajasthan Royals, it seemed like there was a very good recovery from 43 for 4 to 177 for 9. And it was, I saw, because RCB had won the previous 3 games, I think I saw this side of RCB that we haven't really seen for a while. And it's that, you would have kind of thought there would have been a bit of a different response to say, we let a team off the hook when they were 43 for 4 and then they recovered to this score. Whereas in this, they just didn't seem phased at all. And, we all kind of thought that there just wasn't enough on that pitch, and it was kind of more of a recovery job than posting a competitive total. But Aura had something to play with. Well, it seemed like that, but in the end they didn't, because, it really seemed effortless. Because so Virat Kohli, he hit a few good shots, but then he was struggling for his first 30 balls or so. And Devdutt Padikkal was the aggressor. And the thing is, Padikkal had COVID-19 and he only came back, and you saw against, I think it was against KKR, where he scored 18 of 22 or something. In a kind of, this was a phase where it was a recovery job when they'd lost 2 early wickets and Glenn Maxwell was the aggressor. So despite the fact that we know he's a very good player, he usually strikes at 123, so he gets the runs, but he likes to take his time. And so we never actually expected this from him at all. And he scores 101 not out of 52 balls. And, he expressed himself, and it was a brilliant innings. And it was actually an innings where, his aggressiveness meant that Virat Kohli could kind of, get himself comfortable and then start hitting, which he also did. So it's a very good win for RCB. As I said, AB de Villiers has been absolutely brilliant. You saw the first game against Mumbai Indians. I mean, I thought, you see, nowadays you look at Kings XI Punjab against Mumbai Indians, and you look at Delhi Capitals against Mumbai Indians, and you're seeing they both didn't bottle the chase. But I'm saying that you saw early on in the tournament, when you saw KKR, you saw Sunrisers, it's that teams, and almost RCB in the first game, Chennai is this year, it's a very hard place to bat when you're chasing. Especially, it isn't very easy to bat when you're batting first either, but it's easier to bat than when you're chasing. And so someone like an AB de Villiers, who just comes in and hits 44 of 20 odd, and just makes sure that, yes, he didn't completely finish the game, but he got RCB to a situation when they needed 1 off 1 to win, and they won in the end. So the other teams lacked someone like an AB de Villiers who could do that. But again, AB de Villiers showed his class in that situation. And also, after Glenn Maxwell had, played a counter-attacking innings against Kolkata Knight Riders, de Villiers comes in and, destroys especially Andre Russell and gets him to a 200 and 204 for 4, I think, after losing Kohli and I think Padikkal Kohli and Patidar in, I think the second over. So that was a very good thing from de Villiers. And Glenn Maxwell has been absolutely brilliant this year. Punjab would have, wanted him to do this when he was there, because after 2014 he effectively did nothing in the IPL until now. But he's in, he's playing really well now. The thing is, we saw the moment, after the IPL, you saw how he played against India in, when they toured Australia. And I'm not correlating that to saying that that's why he would have done well in this IPL, but this just seemed like a change in scenario. You saw, I think the day before the auction, there was this talk of him going to RCB, and the bidding war between CSK and RCB was predicted, and in the end it happened. So by that point no one was surprised that it happened, and RCB was the place for him, and he's done very well there so far. He scored 250s. He scored 78 against KKR, and he also scored 59 against SRH to give RCB a competitive total that they defended. And he also scored 39 in the game against Mumbai Indians first as well. So he's had a very good tournament. And in the bowling, Harshal Patel has been a revelation this season, and he got a 5-wicket haul against the Mumbai Indians. And I really felt that, it's not like the Mumbai Indians weren't struggling in that. The surface was slow, but they looked like getting much more than 160, and Harshal Patel, 159 rather, and Harshal Patel, bowled brilliantly with 5 for 27, and I think he gave, I think 14 runs or so in his first over, and then he came back as well. So it was a brilliant performance by him. Almost got a hat-trick in that as well. He gave a bit of runs in, against Rajasthan Royals, but he actually came back. I think he gave 31 runs in his first 2 overs, but then he came back in his last 2 overs, and he executed his plans well, and that's why Rajasthan Royals' mini recovery, yes, they got to 177, but Harshal Patel did execute some deliveries well to get wickets. And he also, I think he got 3 wickets in that game as well. And so, yeah, he's been excellent this season. And Siraj has also brought a few good deliveries. Jameson, I thought that, the kind of the life in the Mumbai wicket definitely did help him, because, you saw in the games they played in Chennai, Jameson is he isn't overly quick, but, with his height 6 for 8, he can really bowl a kind of a hard length and get the ball to rise, even if he doesn't try to bowl it that quick. And I really feel like, the life in the Mumbai pitch, and especially that Mumbai surface where it was, high scoring, it really helped him so he could maintain that control with the new ball. And, he seemed more threatening in that Mumbai pitch than he did at Chennai. And Mohammad Siraj also, bowling very well as well. So that's the thing about RCB. They've been very good this season. There are a few things though, because they don't really have a number 3. They've tried Patidar. They've tried Shahbaz Ahmed as well, and they both haven't really done that well. I mean, the reason why they're trying him at number 3 because they're thinking of AB de Villiers at number 5. I think that the thing about AB de Villiers is this: if he comes in before overs 1, before the 10th over, let's say. The thing about de Villiers is that if he doesn't get a run off his first few deliveries, if you put pressure on him, if he gets dot balls, it kind of suffocates him a little bit. And that's why, you see, especially when you bowl left down off spin to him as well, if you just do things to limit his scoring in his first few balls, he definitely does not like that, and more often than not, he will get out. And so I feel that de Villiers coming later on in the piece at number 5, in a batting lineup that, you see the players are firing, and in that way, the field, de Villiers can kind of get into this hitting mode, which he does seamlessly. And, when he just goes out there to hit, you've seen the fact against the Mumbai Indians and also against KKR, he just does so seamlessly, and he just seems to enjoy himself. And with the Pacers bowling towards the end as well, he just does what he usually does. And yeah, I feel like it's a really good way that RCB are using him with Glenn Maxwell at 4. And I just feel like, they would want the number 3 to come good. But again, I feel like it's solely because, they have the faith that you have Padikkal and Kohli opening the batting. And you have the number 3 who you'd want to get runs from. But then as far as the batting order is concerned, you have Maxwell at 4 and De Villiers at 5. So you do have this firepower. And also you make sure that the players ideally come in at phases in the game that would kind of suit the team and suit them in terms of expressing themselves. The one thing which has been a bit iffy for RCB is Yuzvendra Chahal's form. Now, before here's the thing. So people are saying that he has been out of form. It's that one, they just can't drop Chahal because he's such a vital bowler in this team. 2, he did pick up 2 wickets against KKR, but Andre Russell, I think, hit him in his last over, which ruined his figures a bit. He got hit a bit by Shivam Dubey against Rajasthan Royals, but the thing is, and even then you could say like Mumbai isn't a very great place for spinners, especially, on those high scoring surfaces. So it never has been a great place for spinners in, T20 cricket. And so even then you could kind of understand why that he wouldn't have gone into the game expecting to have the best figures. And so that's the thing about this. Like, Yuzvendra Chahal can't be dropped. And 2, look, you look at people saying he's out of form. It's that, 1, is he really, for out of form standards? You look at anyone else who's out of form, you see them getting obliterated. You look at Jaydev Unadkat in the past 3 seasons. I mean, that's the definition of being out of form. I mean, if you look at Yuzvendra Chahal, I mean, is it out of form considering his standards? Then maybe, but even then I wouldn't call it out of form at all. It's just he's having a bit of a tough time, which a lot of bowlers do have. And honestly, for a tough time, if he's producing what he's producing, it isn't even that bad. So I'm sure, with what he's done for RCB, he's bowled for RCB in tough situations when, I mean, even before Mohammad Siraj came along, even before you saw when even he had to bowl at the death in the Bangalore wickets as well, when there was pretty much no other bowler, apart from him who they trusted. So I'm sure Yuzvendra Chahal will come good. And even if he is supposedly out of form, his out of form is a much less out of form than probably many other bowlers in the world. And honestly, I'm sure they'll still find that he's actually, his output is relatively decent. And yeah, that's RCB. They've been very good, and it'll be interesting to see how tomorrow goes. And now CSK. So CSK, the one thing has been that their batting has been very good throughout this tournament. They recovered and scored 188 against the Delhi Capitals, and Delhi completely just smashed that. And the second game was against Punjab, where we just completely blew Punjab away. And the third game against Rajasthan Royals, also, I mean, the highest score was 33, I think, but everyone contributed. And, I at one stage when they were at I think 120 odd, I thought that maybe would not get enough and maybe we were losing the plot a little bit and we had to really focus on making sure we don't lose more wickets. But we got to 188 with Bravo scoring 20 off 8 as well. And we bowled. And, I'll be honest, we didn't bowl badly, but we didn't bowl that well. I just felt like a few good balls kind of changed the match for us. And again, this is a Rajasthan Royals side who were very low in confidence. And yeah, we beat them. And against KKR, I mean, it's kind of a freak game, really, because we scored 220. And, we were actually, I never thought we were going to get that much, to be honest with you, because we were 98 without loss in 11 overs. And you think as a platform, 200 is on. But just the way that it folded, especially with some very poor KKR death bowling and poor bowling both throughout the innings, really, from KKR. And KKR lost 5 in the power play, 31 for 5, and they lost by 18 runs in the end. And they got that close because of Pat Cummins, Andre Russell, and Dinesh Karthik. So I know I kind of went through all the games a little bit, but, it's been very good for CSK. We've got 3 wins on the bounce, and it's an ideal kind of form coming into a derby that, we have had the better of. I mean, the 2 times you look at 2018, I think we beat them. Uh, 2019, we also. So I think the only two times that they've won RCB so far, I think from 2018 till now, and you've seen the abysmal record they've had against us for the most part in the previous seasons, before that. And the only times they've won, I think, since 2018 is that I think it's two times. So they won in 2019 when MS Dhoni was so I think we needed 26 or 6 balls, and MS Dhoni scores 24, and Parthiv Patel affected a run out in the last ball to make us lose by 1 run. And then it was in the outclassing where Virat Kohli scored 90 in the first innings, unbeaten 90, and we just our whole team didn't keep up the intensity that he did alone. And yeah, we lost that game. But then even in that season, the second time, we bounced back and we won. We chased the score pretty easily. And yeah, it's just that RCB, this is a derby that CSK have, quite a, decent advantage over. And especially with the momentum of both teams, I just feel that, CSK, despite the fact that they are second, I feel like they have a very, very good, they can think that they can't win this. I mean, RCB will also be thinking their momentum also goes quite they've played 4 games and won all 4, so definitely they will be thinking they'll be able to win this as well, and that's what will make this one a little bit more good, because honestly we've had 2 I thought boring games, because you saw alright Punjab beat Mumbai, which is a very, very good result for them. I think they're actually neck on neck with Mumbai as far as points are concerned. And today's game was honestly one of the most boring games in the last 3 years of IPL. I mean, this Rajasthan Royals KKR game, I mean, KKR just never got set at all. And what happened was, it was basically just, the batsmen play a few balls and, they want to increase their run rate. They hit a 6 and then a few balls later they get out. And it was basically a whole innings, full of that. Apart from the openers lasted for about 5 and a bit overs, and then after that it was literally what I said. And yeah, it just wasn't a great innings from KKR, and the bowling wasn't great either. And Rajasthan Royals, when we thought, what if they give this away, I thought Sanju Samson played a very responsible innings of 41 not out, and Rajasthan clinically won this game. But it wasn't a great game to watch, but happy for Rajasthan that they got the points. And the thing is, I'm sure this game will be a very good game, CSK and RCB. And the thing about CSK is this. So as I said, I talked about the batting, it's going very well. But the thing about the bowling is this. So apart from Deepak Chahar, and I said this point, in my previous video, apart from Deepak Chahar, there's no one else you can actually, consistently rely on. And okay, Lungi and Giri's come back in, and I thought he bowled very well. So that's 2 bowlers. Moeen Ali, he didn't bowl in that game in Mumbai, which is understandable. But he also is a very reliable off spinner, very underrated off spinner actually. And the 2 bowlers that I'm thinking about is, or even 3 now, is so I talked about Sam Curran and Jadeja. It's the fact that they provide more with the bat than they do with the ball. And now, you see how the batting is doing. They don't need that insurance. They don't need Sam Curran and Jadeja to supposedly save them. Now the focus is more on their bowling. And their bowling, honestly, isn't up to the mark of being bowling all-rounders. I mean, you're in the team as bowling all-rounders. You are part of the bowling attack, and your overs are essential to the team. Alright, CSK does have a lot of bowling options, but they would prefer these 2 to bowl and bowl well, but they aren't doing that. And Shardul Thakur, you saw how well he bowled for India against England, but he just seems to be a little bit out of sorts in this tournament. And yeah, he got hit around a bit. And I'm not saying he's a bad bowler by any means, but I'm saying that, he would kind of want to improve his figures as well, because you see these 3 bowlers, it'll be very frustrating for CSK if they have to kind of deal with this throughout the tournament. And yeah, that's on CSK. I mean, apart from that, I think that batting-wise, they're a settled side. I do feel that RCB in the bowling department, I mean, but both sides I'm not so sure about, especially RCB. Yes, Harshal Patel bowled well, and luckily he did, because apart from him, I'm not really too sure about the death bowling, because, Kyle Jamieson, especially, until he came to Mumbai, it didn't really seem like what he was, gonna do, because the pitch in Chennai didn't really there was not much life in the pitch, and so it didn't really suit his kind of bowling. Mohammad Siraj bowls well up front, but again, I'm not sure how he's going to do at the death. So Harshal Patel's success is integral for RCB, and CSK, as I said, those three bowlers definitely need to kind of up their game a bit for CSK to win this game, and also to to play, to win more games throughout the tournament. And so how will each team go about this? So the thing is that it's like this, yes. So I mean, the thing is, as far as context, CSK would want to win this game to make sure RCB also get beaten as well. So every team has lost a game, and the thing about this is that people are kind of thinking, will there be a change of, if there's any change for RCB, will there be a change of maybe Adam Zampa in for Yuzvendra Chahal, and then Kane Richardson out, Navdeep Saini in, which is the change they discussed on Quick Buzz Live, which I don't think will happen, but that's the only change I think, if at all there's anything, they'll even think about, and even they won't think about that either. So it depends. If, we don't know which Mumbai surface it will be, if it's the one where, the low scoring one like we saw today, or if it's a high scoring one, they may actually want to take Kane Richardson out and put Adam Zampa in, just to give that the other spinning option. And Adam Zampa and Yuzvendra Chahal, I think if they play regularly together, it will be the best spin combination in the league. And so I think that you saw in the UAE when Zampa did play with Chahal, you saw how much better RCB were. And so I wouldn't, depending on the surface, I wouldn't be surprised if Zampa does play. He'd be a great addition to this team. CSK, I don't really think need to make any changes. I mean, so I'm actually, for Lungi Ngidi playing instead of Dwayne Bravo, because you saw if he wasn't playing in that, game that we just played against KKR, we may have even lost it. So Dwayne Bravo, the thing is that, he is prone to full tosses more nowadays at the death, and you saw since 2018, especially in 2018, one of the big reasons why CSK won the title was because of Lungi Ngidi bowling at the death and executing well. And so you also saw how he did in the game against KKR, so I'm sure he will be vital to bowling at the death for CSK, because if Sam Curran and Deepak Chahar get hit around a little bit, then we will have to rely on Ngidi's overs even more. And just the fact that, RCB will be looking to make sure Deepak Chahar goes wicketless. I mean, if he, CSK rely on Deepak Chahar taking wickets so much, because you look at, the forfeits that he's taken. I mean, apart from against Kings 11, he kind of broke the back of the innings for Kings 11, and also against KKR, with the way that Pat Cummins was hitting towards the end, I mean, you would have thought by the progression KKR would have won, but they lost the game at the start. They lost the game in the power play, and that was because of Deepak Chahar. So RCB are going to have to make sure Deepak Chahar probably takes maximum one wicket, and especially with their batting lineup, you look at Kohli, De Villiers, Maxwell, De Villiers, and so it's even more a reason why they should make sure Deepak Chahar kind of does as less damage as possible, so they can target other bowlers who aren't in the best of form. You look at Sam Curran, Shardul Thakur and Ravindra Jadeja, they aren't in the best of form, so they could be able to target them, and especially them batting first. If they bat first and again do what I just said, then they may really, depending on the Mumbai surface, they may really be able to get a lot of runs and out-bat CSK. And CSK, look, I mean, the thing is that I do think the RCB have more bowlers who are bowling well than CSK do. And the thing is, they don't solely rely on one person. You look at, Yuzvendra Chahal, his experience will always be there. Mohammad Siraj is bowling very well. Kyle Jamieson, if the pitch has a bit of life in it, as I said, he seems to enjoy this surface much more than the Chennai one. Harshal Patel has been excellent this tournament. And there was Kane Richardson, who, look, I mean, he's more of a death bowler, and that's probably the reason why RCB actually dropped Dan Christian and then they got Kane Richardson in. And depending on the surface, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Kane Richardson in. The only swap that I can see, as I said, is Adam Zampa for Kane Richardson, depending on what kind of Mumbai surface there is. And yes, the thing is that who do I think is going to win this? I'm going to go with the past history and say CSK, because it's the, in this kind of a derby, it's even more than what happens on the field. Of course, what happens in the field determines the win or the loss, but RCB just seem incomplete, whatever happens, compared to the mental side of CSK. And because it's a derby that CSK have had such a good record, in, and whenever we've seen, CSK versus RCB games, and especially in the 2015 time when how CSK completely destroyed RCB, you can kind of understand why, there just seems to be something missing. Like, I mean, this has nothing to do with the players that each team has. It's just that I talked about the aura last season in 2020 when I talked about the fact that if you take off this aura that CSK have, the class that they have, and you just put, if it's just dependent on the cricket, you saw how CSK did last season, and, we finished 7th. Whereas when they have the confidence, and, the IPL is happening in India as well, and I just feel like CSK would be in a much better position to win this than they were to win it in the UAE. And so, yeah, I still think CSK for me. But as I said, if RCB can make sure Deepak Chahar does, less damage, they could potentially outbat CSK. And CSK's batting has also been very good as well. And so remember, if they, get a good total, and if Deepak Chahar, swings the ball up front and gets some early wickets. And as I said, look, RCB have a makeshift number 3, and their number 6 hasn't batted that often. So it's still very dependent on this engine room that, look, even if one of them fire, they can change the game. They have a very good player in Padikkal as well. And the number 6 is Washington Sundar, who isn't bad by any means. And so you'd have a very good batting lineup, and it'll be very interesting because the first time in a while, RCB seem, a more complete side to go into this derby and really, put up a fight and, can win the game. And a lot of people would say RCB are favourites because of the momentum that they have, but CSK also have that momentum, and, with the past history that kind of makes it just more than what happens in the field. As I said, it's a derby the CSK have had, the very big advantage in. So I'm still going for CSK tomorrow, but let's see how it goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?